I know how it feels to feel like you're fooling everybody, like you're too much and not enough, all at the same time. It's a lonely place to be, but I want you to know that you're not alone, that this mind game can stop, that there's no one like you or me, and that's where your power lives. That's what makes you genuinely great. That's what makes you the real deal. And this is The Real Deal with Bree Clark. Social media. We have this love-hate relationship with it. Throw in comparison culture, and it's a breeding ground for imposter feelings. It's a feeling Kendra Stanton knows all too well. As a beauty blogger, co-pastor, and mom of 3, she knows how easy it is to let the post of perfection spiral us into feeling like we ourselves are frauds. Kendra Stanton tells us how she shows up authentically and helps others do the same. Okay, I got to start off. I absolutely love your outfit. It screams Kendra Stanton.
Thank you.
When I see you on social media, on your page, I mean, this is who you are. This is what you look like.
It's like a blend of like extreme comfort and style. So that's how I live my life.
Yeah. When you show up on social media, that is actually you.
It really is.
Beauty blogger and mom and co-pastor and all the things.
Trying to blend like that, like relatable life, because I'm not like super stringent in how I live it. So I try to like reflect that a bit on social media for sure.
Yeah. And you help a lot of women and men too, but you help a lot of people show up authentically on social media. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, social media is a fairly new thing, you know, like, I mean, I know it's been around for like 10 years, but it's an ever changing situation. So people are always trying to kind of play the game and put their best foot out there and everything else. And I just think it feels so refreshing when you're scrolling through your feed to see something that you're like, oh my gosh, like this isn't fake. This isn't something that was like super curated, and I can relate to that. It's like a breath of fresh air. And that's what I try to give to people, is something that they can just be like, you know what? Like, okay, her house is messy. Cool. Mine is too. Like, you know what I mean?
Someone that they can relate to.
Yeah,
and say,
definitely. Hey. Not to say that everyone's vibe is a messy house. I don't like having a messy house either, but you know, it does happen from time to time.
Everyone has some mess somewhere. Don't lie.
Oh my gosh.
People have messes.
I'm like, shove it in the closet.
Yeah. So tell me, so we've been talking about the imposter phenomenon here on the show, and just how it relates to a lot of different aspects, because the study that was done in 78, that was only a little small micro portion of where we are. And so much has changed and evolved since then. Social media has, come into the fold for us. Tell me, how do you help people balance that? The feeling of, oh my gosh, everyone's perfect here on Instagram, to I can show up and be who I am as well.
Yeah. Well, first off, I think it's so easy to compare yourself to everybody when you're being slammed with like beautiful families, beautiful clothes, beautiful pictures, and everything else. And one thing that is so important is to just be yourself, you know, and stop comparing yourself to everybody else, which is so much easier said than done. Like, it's so easy for me to be like, hey, Bree, stop comparing yourself to everyone. And you're like, cool, thanks for that great advice, you know. Noted. I'll put that one on the notepad. You know, it's so much easier to say that, but it really has to be a diligent practice that starts in your mind. You know, you have to really say like, okay, if I'm going to choose to open up my phone and look at everything else, then what I need to do is appreciate what that person might be putting out there, but not compare myself in any way and not think that I need to be like that person. It's understanding that this is who, you know, God created them to be in that space, and this is who I am created to be in this space.
Yeah.
And we might be running parallel to each other, but we're not in comparison with each other.
Yeah. And you started off as a beauty blogger. How has that been for you, fighting those feelings of, I'm a fraud, I'm an imposter, everybody's going to find out that I don't really look like this, those things.
Yeah.
How's that been?
Well, I do have a funny story. I can share it. One day I was dropping off my kids to school, and I just like looked like a hot mess, like no makeup on, nothing else. And then the next day I had been like shooting, I think a blog or like a YouTube video or maybe something for Instagram. I'm not sure. And I showed up at school at the pickup line, like totally like hot mama, had everything looking amazing. And the next day my husband went and picked up the kids. And the lady who like was handing my kids off were like, hey, like I'm noticing there's 2 women like dropping your kids off. Who are they? And I was like, no, so embarrassing.
Oh, you were the same person.
Yeah, they totally thought I was like 2 separate people. So that didn't feel, the greatest in the world. But I started out like in the beauty space kind of as like an OG beauty blogger back in like 2010. So I really had to find my way in the world. And then all of a sudden with the advancement of social media, you saw more, people showing up in this space, people that were younger, people that had like, maybe even more skills or whatever, better in front of the camera and whatnot. And yeah, it was like very easy to compare myself to everybody else. Like I think that for me, it was, like I said, just saying I can sit here and like cry myself into a pile, because I'm not this person or I'm not that person. Or I can just say like, I do bring something to the table and I might not connect with everybody, but I will connect with somebody.
Yeah. How was it because we're not just talking about image here as well when it comes to social media.
Yep.
We're talking about in real time, people voting and adding those numbers and those likes.
Oh yeah, that's a rough one.
How is that?
Well, it's really rough to go from thousands of likes down to like 120. Australia completely took away the likes because it was on Instagram because it was affecting people's mental state.
Yeah.
I think that is a real issue, and it is a real, like, it's like high school, but like in your face all the time, and you just can't get away from it. You can't graduate from it unless you just shut your phone down,
In a cafeteria, you can go to the bathroom and say,
you have like the comments, and it's just like, oh man. I think you have to have like a foundation of understanding like your self-worth and really focus on that truly, because you cannot get your affirmation from humans. They will always let you down. And if you just know that, like, and you're not out there to like please everybody, and you will have haters, you are going to have people that love you, you're going to have haters, you're going to have all this like stuff. And the more you put yourself out there, the more that's just going to happen. And you're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days. You're going to have more likes one day, you're going to have a viral video the next, and so your worth is not dependent on your like count, period. But you have to tell yourself that. And that is like, that's where like the intersection of your brain and your soul and your heart kind of collide, is just to go, okay, I might need to separate that a little tiny bit and just have my brain take center stage to tell like the rest of me that it's okay that I didn't get as many likes today as I did the day before.
Yeah.
Kind of like separate it, which I think can be hard for a lot of people.
Yeah. I think it's a balance of subjective and objective. Dr. Valerie Young, in her book, she talks about that quite a bit. She breaks down these groups of people that suffer with the imposter feelings, the feelings of, I'm a fraud, they're going to find me out, I'm just going to have to fake it till I make it, those types of things. And the fake it till you make it myth sometimes isn't a myth. Sometimes you really just have to play the game, as you're saying, until something changes. But I want to talk a little bit more about that mental aspect that you brought up with everything. She says creatives are impacted the most, which I think in the social media space, that's basically what we're talking about, is you being creative and showing yourself in whatever way you feel represents you the best. And some of us kind of get pushed into, well, everybody's doing this. This is what I have to look like. This is what everybody's, honing into, or the newest trend. For you, how's it been for your clients navigating that? What are some of the things that you often hear them say when they're hearing that imposter lie, that voice, when they're trying to show up in this space?
I think in general, everybody, struggles with that in their business to some degree. And that's where, branding and kind of like really honing in on the message that you want to bring out to the world is so important, to like kind of tailor it down and just say, hey, like, this is truly my focus and this is what I want to bring to the world. And again, like just saying, hey, no matter if my brain is saying like, you suck at this, like, why are you doing this? Like, you're not like the best. There's so-and-so over here that might be doing it better or whatever. Like, there's no one else like you. There's no one else that can bring to the table what you do because there's nobody else that is created identical to you. So if this is what you are called to do in your life, then you just need to go full speed and know that you are unique, and you're important and you have so much value. And honestly, go for it because nobody can do it like you because there's only one DNA makeup of you.
Just
Just
one.
one.
And so by default, you
Yeah.
are the real deal. Like
Yeah.
you come out of the room
You.
as the real deal,
Yeah.
I guess.
Nobody else can do it like you. I mean,
Yeah.
you might do it different.
Yeah.
So-and-so might do it different than you, but at the end of the day, like you bring to the table what you bring to the table because you are you.
Yeah. So tell me if there was one thing that you've said to help people move forward in this space.
Yeah.
You think just kind of breaks it down in a sense, like your mantra for the people who are trying to enter this space. What is that mantra for them? What do you tell them?
A mantra for them to move forward. I mean, I love like the title of your show because it's, The Real Deal with Bree Clark, which is, pretty amazing. And I think that would be it for me is when I tell people, it is to bring you to the table, period, and to be the realest version of yourself. People see through fake really fast.
Yeah.
And they see through like putting on a show really fast, like especially in the digital age, like in your branding and everything else, like people can see through smoke and mirror very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And, it might be nice, like for a moment, but the larger your following or the bigger your brand, people start to see like either you are who you say you are or you definitely are not, And so being true to yourself would be the mantra. Be true to yourself if I were to choose one. And don't waver from it. Stick to it. You can always pivot. You can always like find a new way, but at the end of the day, you always want to stay true to your brand and stay true to you and what you are called to do in this lifetime.
Yeah. Do you feel that a lot of the people you work with are dealing with some imposter
Absolutely.
feelings? Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, because you can always compare yourself. There's not a lack of being able to compare yourself to people, like, or to businesses or to this or to that. So yeah, like, I mean, I think that part of being human is having to fight that in some degree, and with everything being so out there and exposed and everyone putting their face forward, it just gives a million opportunities to compare yourself to a million different angles and people and businesses and whatnot. So yeah, like they definitely do. I mean, we all do in some degree.
Yeah. And I know there's going to be people who are going to say, well, that's easy for her to say. She has thousands of followers. But it took you a while to get to that point. Tell me a little bit about that.
I mean, I started out like just like grassroots, just basically in my kitchen, doing stuff. And then I got asked to do beauty segments for local TV stations, and it just sort of organically grew from there. But in terms of fighting that imposter syndrome, I mean, I can't say that there haven't been a million moments where I've cried myself to sleep because I was so just down on myself. And I struggle with anxiety. I struggle with depression. And these are all things that I have been, medically diagnosed with. I've been on and off medicine, etc. And so they really are true issues, especially for someone who struggles with mental health. Like when you start comparing yourself in any space, like, but for me specifically, like just putting myself out there it's extremely vulnerable, to put yourself out there. And then when you do that first time, you get like that negative feedback, that negative comment, like you're just going to crumble, And so it's like, you just have to learn to be tough in some ways and still gentle and still be yourself. Like, don't be hard. Don't get hardened by the comparison because it is going to come naturally. For me, it's just been about like guarding my mind.
Yeah.
And guarding my heart and not taking everything so personal.
Break that down. Guarding my mind, guarding my heart.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Like it kind of gives me chills just talking about it because it is, it's a daily practice really of, I mean, I do pray, like I pray every single day and just, to know like where my foundation is. And as like a Christian, it's super important for me to guard my heart and guard my mind. So what that means is, practicing the ability to not take everything so personal. So if I see something like the like counts are bad, or there's like a nasty comment, or someone hits me up on Instagram and like shreds my parenting style or whatever, it's more of just like, do I really care?
Yeah.
Do I need to care? Like, do I need to like actually care what you have to say about this? You're not in my circle. Like, this is, I've learned to keep my circle like pretty tight in who I get my personal advice from. Like, and that's part of guarding my mind. I'm not going to go to rando on the internet and ask them for advice, like, because the people that I trust in my circle have my best interest and they're going to give me the best advice because they love me. You know what I'm saying? So part of that is to say, like, I'm guarding my mind by kind of filtering. It's like a filtration system of who I'm going to take advice from and who I'm going to let speak into my life. And that also in turn will also guard my heart. So they're extremely interconnected.
Another thing that you touched on that I think is great is thank you for sharing that mental aspect for us, because I think that's the thing is with the imposter syndrome, we're tricked into thinking it's such a complicated mental game that we play.
Yeah.
Because we're tricked into thinking, one, I'm the only person that experiences this.
Yeah.
And when people find me out, oh my gosh, like they're gonna know.
Yeah.
And I'm the only one that feels like this.
Right.
But it's a complicated mental process of realizing, one, I'm not the only one that feels like this. And two, there may be some other underlying things that are leading to these feelings.
Yeah.
And vice versa. The imposter phenomenon, it feeds into those other things as well.
Yeah.
And they've actually found that there is a connection between anxiety and depression and the imposter phenomenon. And the more that we talk about these things, the easier it will be for them to kind of diagnose those things. And I think social media, instead of being the evil that creates the comparison culture, can actually foster awareness about these types of things. So tell me, how's it been with dealing with depression, anxiety, navigating this space?
So it's been a really rough journey. It's been a long journey. And actually, it wasn't until it was like 3 years into really doing the influencer kind of lifestyle, I would say, that I really came to terms with the fact that I actually did struggle with anxiety and depression, because I had like a full blown, just like end of the world, like mental breakdown. And so that was really kind of like a humbling thing, because I do view myself as like a strong person and I can handle a lot. I could take a lot, you know, but I just realized that I actually, in this position, the position I am, like, definitely need help. Like, I can't, I needed some tools to be able to help. So that meant therapy, that meant some medication, spending time in the Bible, things like that really were crucial things I needed to do in my life in order to participate in not just sitting behind a screen and judging a bunch of people, but actually producing content and bringing things to people for them to kind of like judge if they like it or not.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Because I always struggled with anxiety and depression. That's always been the case for me. It was definitely amplified when I was on social media and didn't like protect myself in some ways with having those correct tools.
And I'm sure it became worse when you saw those numbers increasing. It just...
Yeah, I mean, I remember one time, like specifically, this isn't even that long ago, but I had been posting some content about my son, because we had talked earlier. My son is like, you know, crazy. But when he was like 1 or 2, he was about like 15 children in one. So I was just like constantly running around, and I would post him like on the internet, which, you know, to each their own, whatever. But for me, it was more just bringing that authenticity of like, not trying to rag on my son. I'm just like trying to like...
Momming is hard.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, anyone relate, you know? And I had some moms reach out and they just were like, you're a terrible mom. Like, I can't believe you put this out there. And, you know, it really actually... it kind of shook me, because for the most part on social media, I do get a lot of, hey, thank you for putting this out there. Thank you for like being vulnerable. Thanks for sharing your story. Thanks for talking about depression, because I'm very vocal about it. But that moment would have like spiraled me out had I not had the tools of like being able to navigate through a world of producing content and putting myself out there while struggling with my mental health.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So for me, the story has been, if this is the career path that you want to do, like for myself, that's what I'm doing, then I need to take care of myself, period. You know? And my boundary is take care of myself.
I love that. I love that. When someone looks at you and says, Kendra Stanton, social media influencer, what are the feelings that come?
Oh yeah, definitely. Sometimes I'm like, I'm just like a normal human. And also my first thoughts would be like, I don't know if you know who I am. Like I'm just like a normal person. And also there's so-and-so has higher numbers than me. So I do in real time right now, like definitely struggle with imposter syndrome. Yeah. Like even just coming on this interview, I'm like, are you sure?
Does Bree know who I am?
You good with this? Like,
did you vet me?
Did you check my background? Sure with that?
Yeah.
But I also know, like, you know what? Dang it. Like, I got some good things to bring to the world.
Yeah.
And I that's the focus is, hey, I can either sulk and be like, well, I can put myself mentally down very easily, or I can just say, you know what? Like, you have value and you have something to bring to the world. And like I said before, what I do tell my clients is you are unique and there's only one of you. And you know what? There's only one Kendra Stanton.
Yeah, there's only one Kendra
with my DNA. Like, that's it.
I think the more that we talk about these things, the more that people hear these things, they can look and see Kendra Stanton, thousands of followers, these beautiful pictures of you, but never realize that, hey, like me, she struggles with this feeling of, what are you sure that you have the right person?
Yeah.
And I struggle with that as well. You know, there's been many times where people come up and they've been like, oh my gosh, you're Bree Clark. And I'm like, yes, I'm just Bree Clark. And it instead of me being flattered, there's always these feelings of to run away, to just run away. And they don't know what they're talking about. And I fooled them into believing I'm,
right.
And I think that's the thing is we think I have fooled someone into believing this.
Right.
But I also think it's funny because there's a lot of arrogance that comes with that.
Yeah.
That you believe that I believe that that all of these people have no way of knowing that I'm who I am. Yeah. And that's not the case. They're seeing the real deal, and it's time for us to see that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree.
So what is something that you want to put out there in the world that you want people to know in this moment, in this time on the show?
Oh man, so much, I guess. In real time on this show, with the topic of imposter syndrome would be what I feel like I've woven through our whole conversation, which is that there truly is nobody like you. So you really are uncomparable in any space because you are the only you that can bring you to the table. And God made you unique and he made you for a purpose. And that's it. Like he made you on purpose, for a purpose. And the filtration system is key. And if you keep that at the forefront of whatever you're doing, you'll win, So,
yeah. Well, Kendra, you are the real deal.
Well, thank
you so much for coming on my show.
Oh,
this was like my favorite talk.
Oh, so same. So fun.
Thank you.
Yeah.